Hi, students, and welcome to week 8 in your compressed developmental writing class. I just wanted to give you an update as to what we're doing this week. This week, we are working very diligently on our argumentative essays. I'm going to share my screen with you. So just going to click on the class here and see where we are with week 8. Hopefully by now you have decided on what you're going to be writing about and have begun your writing process. I will get to the grading as soon as I possibly can and get you your feedback so that you are ready. Remember, you can always reach out to me if you have questions. I'll be more than happy to assist you, but please don't text me at 11 o'clock at night because I'm not going to answer, or I'm going to be really mean. So try to avoid texting me that late at night. If you have questions, you can send me an email. I'll be happy to answer it. Or you can also text me as long as it's within my office hours. Just wanted to reiterate that because I do like my sleep. But anyway, on a brighter note, I hope everyone enjoyed their spring break and had a wonderful and great spring break. This week, we're going to focus our lesson on counter arguments and talk a little bit about counterclaims and the importance of a counterclaim. So I'm just going to go ahead and share the screen and talk with you a little bit about that. Counterclaims and the importance of counterclaims in writing an argumentative essay. So, a counterclaim is what your audience might say to disagree with you. Now, I did go over that a little bit in our last meeting when I recorded this, but it is very important that you address the audience's concerns so that you can refute them. To do this well, you have to know your audience. So a teacher might say, an elementary school teacher, for example, might say, gum may cause a distraction if it's chewed too loudly. And a principal may say, gum causes messes that take too much of the custodian's time and makes the school look bad. Okay, so to introduce the counterclaim, you want to talk about why people believe it. Do not talk about whether it's wrong or it's right. So you would start off introducing the counterclaim with signal phrases such as, the opposing view is that, or some people believe, or some may say that, or others may believe. You do not introduce your counterclaim in the introductory paragraph because you want to give yourself time to argue what your argument essay is about before you introduce the opposition. So a rebuttal, after you introduce the counterclaim, then you have to discuss why the counterclaim is incorrect. So you can start your rebuttal in a number of ways, such as despite this information, or nevertheless, or however. Those signal phrases and signal words are very handy, and it's your opportunity to prove why the opposing viewpoint is wrong. So I put this little graphic over here to come over to my side of the argument so the view is clear from here. Okay, this is an example. Team sports should be required in high school. This is an argument. Excuse me. Some people may believe that team sports can and do intimidate children. Some children may be physically smaller than others. Others may not be as athletic as other team members. When they cannot run as fast as other team members or not as agile, they fear and may receive ridicule. However, learning to work as part of a team is essential to success in many other areas. Students have to learn how to cooperatively work both at home and in school. In school, it is expected that students are able to work together without conflict. Similarly, children at home are expected to be part of the family team, helping with household duties which need to be completed. So that's just an example of a rebuttal in a nutshell. Just very, very simple. But notice it does have a claim, it has a counterclaim, it has a rebuttal in it as well. You know, it explains that while some people do believe sports can and do intimidate children, some children may be physically smaller than others. Okay, all right. So that's a little bit of a counterclaim. Others may not be as athletic as other team members, and when they cannot run as fast as other team members or not as agile, they fear and may receive ridicule. That basically means that they'll get made fun of. This word here, and I'm going to put my mouse over it, however indicates that you are giving a rebuttal to your counterclaim. However, learning to work as part of a team is essential to success in many other areas. So you are saying, you know what? I see what you're saying. However, you also need to realize that this is important too. So that's what a counterclaim is. Just very simple. I'm going to tell you that here I have a link to watch a 10-minute video on counter arguments, and it'll explain it much better than I ever could, most certainly. And I think it'll probably help you be able to build it down. But I did want to introduce that PowerPoint. I also want to talk to you about quote integration. Integrating quotes is an integral part of being able to write effectively. And by now you should have your sources. If you do not have your sources, then you need to get with me or get with a librarian. There's a 24-hour chat line on the library page. You can have a conversation with them, tell them what your topic is, and they can help you find sources. If you're stuck, then please reach out. I'll be more than happy to assist you. But quote integration, this is what your assignment is going to be with grammar this week, is practicing how to integrate and blend quotes into your writing. The reason why we use quotes is because we want to validate our points. We want to make sure that we are using outside sources to prove that other people have researched this too. So you want to make sure that you are able to embed the quotes in your writing and make it sound a little more sophisticated. Now, this is a little bit higher level, so it might be a little challenging for most of you, but that's okay. If you don't get challenged, you won't learn. So that's the important thing. But when you embed the quotations, you want to make sure it will help your writing flow better and make it sound more cohesive and concise. And we've talked about that for the past few weeks, and the importance of cohesion and making sure that your sentences flow really well. And if you just do what I call a floating quotation, you just drop it in and you don't introduce it or give it any context, then I call that a floating quote, and I will send you a comment and say, hey, this quote is floating. You really need to make sure you introduce the quote. So sorry, that's my email from the high school. Just X out of there. Okay, so unembedded quotations are awkward and they disrupt the flow of the writing. Often it results in choppy sentences and even run-on sentences. That happens quite often. Embedded quotes is simply only using part of the quotation that you need, and embedding is a fancy way of saying placing that quote within the context of your own writing. So that's a skill, and it will develop as time goes on for you. Remember, you're just emerging writers. I don't expect it to be perfect, but it is important to incorporate them into your own words and your own works within a sentence. You don't want the quotes to be just put alone within a sentence, because your audience is going to be like, what happened? You want to introduce them as part of your sentence. So if you look at this example, and this is a handout that you can print and use for reference as you're writing. Now, this does use literary references because I am a literature teacher as well. So just go with it. So this is one that has some serious room for improvement. You see, William Golding's book, Lord of the Flies, is about kids stranded on an island. Some of the kids are good and some are bad. And then there's just a quote dumped in. It says, Roger, with a sense of delirious abandonment, leaned all his weight on the lever. And then it's got the parenthetical citation with the page number. Doesn't have an author, doesn't have anything else. So I ask you, what causes irresponsible behavior? Ralph is good, but Jack is bad. The reason why this has some serious room for improvement is multi-leveled. First of all, the quote, I'm going to click enable editing so you can see. This quote here, I'm just going to click on the highlighter here so you can see it. This quote here is just dumped. It literally is dumped in. It doesn't give any context. I mean, it says, okay, some of the kids are good and some are the bad, but I don't know who Roger is. I don't have any idea what this is about and why this demonstrates that someone is good or someone is bad. It has to have some context to it. You could say, for example, that's a signal phrase. For example, the character of Roger puts all of his weight on the lever to demonstrate his notoriety or his importance, something along those lines. But then you've got this. So I ask you, okay, so again, I'm going to highlight this. I'll use green. So I ask you, this is wrong because it's got a personal pronoun, two of them. It's got I and you. And this is academic writing, and we don't use personal pronouns in academic writing. What causes irresponsible behavior? Again, that's a rhetorical question, and we don't ask that in academic writing. Ralph is good, but Jack is bad. How do I know that? It doesn't really make any sense. So you have to have a little bit of context there. Here's one that's got some room for, so the top one has serious room for improvement, so that could be fixed. The second one has room for improvement. It's not perfect, but it's not horrible. So there are some bad children on the islands. One of them is Roger. He drops a boulder on Piggy and kills him. Okay. Roger, with a sense of delirious abandonment, leaned all his weight on the lever. This caused Piggy's death. Okay. So it's sort of gives context at the beginning, but again, it's still dropped in. So it needs to have a little bit more. So let's look at a possible revision to this. The truest form of wickedness on the island is evident in Roger. He demonstrates his true depravity when, comma, see the comma here, with a sense of delirious abandonment, he leaned all of his weight on the lever. Well aware of Piggy's place beneath him, comma, Roger willingly takes Piggy's life. Do you see how the quote is embedded in there? So there is a little bit of context. There's context at the beginning. It also tells you you're using your own words and you're combining the quotation with it. And then you're putting the page number in the parenthetical citation at the end. And then adding commentary after the quote, which is really, really important. This is another possible revision that could work. Roger's murder of Piggy clearly illustrates the depths children can sink to without appropriate supervision. As he stood high above Piggy on the mountain, comma, Roger, see the quotation mark, with a sense of delirious abandonment, leaned all of his weight on the lever. There needs to be a space there. Have your page number here. Your period goes after the parenthetical citation. And then his willingness to welcome the moment with, again, insert the quote, delirious abandonment, clearly demonstrates the level of pleasure that Roger received by committing this horrific act. So either one would work. And I know it seems really complex, but I use literature for an example. I just so happen to be teaching Lord of the Flies right now in my high school class. So it was at the forefront of my mind when I created this handout. But just so you are aware, it is very, very important that you use your own words and combine them with the quotes when you're embedding quotations within academic writing. So that's really the biggest lesson that I can give you this week is making sure that you will do the quote integration. So your assignment this week is quote integration. You also have your peer edits. So what you're going to do is create a rough draft of your arguments. And when you're finished with that rough draft, you're going to upload your rough drafts. Please do not expect it to be perfect. As I said at the beginning of this course, as you begin to draft your essay, it will undergo several revisions. This is the first one where you're going to upload what you have onto the discussion board. You're going to use the peer review sheet for the argument essay as you read someone else's. Now, remember, when you do the discussion boards, you have to post before you can see anyone else's work. So it is imperative and important that you do this assignment. So you have to create your rough draft. It needs to be an MLA format. You need to have a thesis statement. You need to have a counterclaim. You need to have quotes embedded. All of those things. Look at the rubric for the assignments. Make sure you read in your book on the counterclaim, rewatch videos from the past weeks. If you're still struggling, reach out to me. If you need some assistance, I'll be more than happy to help you and use that for reference. So this week, all you have is to work on your essay, create a rough draft, upload it into the discussion board, and then reply to one of your classmates. You'll have a practice assignments under your assignments in the Dropbox for embedding quotations. If you have any questions, just reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to assist. I hope you guys have a great week and I hope you enjoyed your spring break. Welcome to week 8. We're on this home stretch.